Hey everyone, welcome to Blockchain, NFTs, and the Future of Content Creation and Distribution of Entertainment. I'm Justin Sinkovich. I'm an associate professor and the associate chair of the Business and Entrepreneurship Department here at Columbia College Chicago. We're an arts and media school of about 7,000 folks here in downtown Chicago, Illinois. And I'm joined here with my colleague Clayton.
I'm Clayton Smith. I'm an associate professor of instruction here at Columbia as well in the Business Entrepreneurship Department, focusing mainly on digital media platforms and new media.
Awesome. So, so I've been working in digital distribution and digital marketing for decades, and actually started researching blockchain back in 2019, and speaking on that subject. And so now we're getting into the realm of where NFTs are making this a very hot topic and a viable source of revenue in the music and entertainment industry. But there's a lot of naysayers and people that think it's a fad and whatnot. So we're here just to break down the basics of it. And then first of all, I want to start with some market perspectives. Now, the global recorded music industry actually has been on the upswing for the first time in a while, which is good. We've grown to almost $26 billion globally. And that is largely driven by streaming, which is great, but that's a very low margin and low revenue per stream good. So we're always looking for new revenue streams that are higher margin, where we can make more revenue, especially over recent years with such a disruption of the live space, which artists and music companies were so dependent on for revenue. So 26 billion in the music market sounds good. We're on the upswing, but think about this, NFT naysayers. The NFT market alone is estimated last year globally at $40 billion, and more than $270 billion in assets have been distributed via the blockchain. So this is a real industry and a real source of revenue that we have to look at and pay attention to. So Clayton, do you want to break down a little bit about how blockchain works?
Yeah, give me the easy job. Describe how blockchain works. So we could talk about this for hours. I'm going to try to give you the shortened version in just a couple minutes here. One of the things that I love to do in my classroom, I'm sure you do too, is take really complex topics and then put them into easily digestible bits for students. That's what I'm going to try to do here today with blockchain. So blockchain is a really hard thing to kind of wrap your brain around sometimes, because it's not a particularly visual thing. It's a digital thing, so we can't see it. So looking for some sort of visual confirmation of what it is challenging. So the way I like to visualize it and have my students visualize it is, think of blockchain as an Excel spreadsheet. It's essentially the same thing in that it performs the same function. So the way a spreadsheet holds information from transactions, you put that same kind of transactional information into the blockchain as a ledger. So a blockchain really is just a bunch of blocks that are chained together, hence the name blockchain. And the blocks are, each of them is kind of like an Excel spreadsheet ledger that records transaction data for, I bought this NFT, or I sold this NFT, or I transferred this money, or I bought this crypto. Whatever it is that you are transacting, that information goes onto the blockchain just like it would in any other sort of ledger. And that's really all a blockchain is. Now, why is a blockchain so powerful if that's all it really is? Well, there are a few reasons. The first one is it's super secure. Now, I know you've probably heard about hacks, and those don't actually happen on the blockchain. Excuse me, they don't happen on the blockchain. They happen kind of, we call bridges. Again, we could talk about this for hours. But the blockchain itself is super secure. The way it works is, think about the game of dominoes. So if you've ever played the game of dominoes, and the actual game of dominoes, not just like setting them up and knocking them down, you know that if I could put a tile down, like a 2 and a 3, and Justin's going to then put a tile down, it has to have either a 2 or a 3 on one side, right? And you put it on that, and then I'll put one that matches the number of yours, and you'll put one that matches the number of mine, and they connect and we make a chain. Imagine the blockchain is like that game of dominoes. If you wanted to go in and hack the system, you would have to change one of the blocks, right? You have to change the transaction information to say, oh, actually, this is my password or my account, or this is my money. And that's how one version of hacking works. In order to do that, you'd have to change that block. You have to change out that domino. The problem is, with blockchain, if you change one domino, it no longer matches the other dominoes connecting to it. And so you'd have to change those dominoes. And then those no longer match the dominoes connecting to them. So you have to change those dominoes. You have to change all the dominoes on this board in order for this to happen, in order for you to hack the system. You have to do it all simultaneously. And there are hundreds of thousands of blocks on a lot of these chains, right? We're growing all the time. So that's number one. You'd have to change every single block instantaneously to match every other block, which is already going to be impossible. The other added layer of security is the blockchain systems kind of work on what we call decentralization. Think of decentralization as sort of an internet laid over the internet, like a small internet on top of the internet. Decentralization means there are a bunch of computers that are kind of working together to make their own network, their own web. And that decentralization means there's no like central computer that's in charge of the blockchain. All these computers together all work together to keep the blockchain going, so no one person is in charge of it, okay? So the other layer of security here is if you were able to change all the dominoes on a board at once somehow, the other thing is every transaction that goes into a block and every block that gets linked to the chain has to be verified by all the computers on that blockchain, or a majority of the computers on that blockchain, depending on the system. So you'd have to also hack into all the computers on the blockchain network in order to make sure that they all look at those transactions that you're fraudulently making, and they say, oh yeah, this is a real transaction, no problem. You have to hack into all thousands of computers while you change simultaneously hundreds of thousands of dominoes, and there's no way to do it. So your data there is really, really, really secure. And that's really the kind of the big benefit of blockchain. The decentralization also makes it so that people can do kind of, make their own rules in terms of how they share information, about how they sell things, about what they make, about what they distribute. And that's going to be, as we're going to look at, really, really important for artists coming up here in the future. We've seen, where you've seen blockchain probably at work the most is with NFTs. NFTs, Justin's going to get into a little bit more specifically. But, this is a whole new wave of art. And the way this works is if you have a digital art component, something that, again, Justin's going to break down for us, you can trade it on the blockchain, you can sell it on the blockchain. Every time you make a sale of that thing or a purchase of that thing, anytime anyone else makes a sale of that thing, it gets locked into that blockchain ledger, just like an Excel spreadsheet, and just verifies that you are the owner or you are the seller. And so it makes fraud on that level virtually impossible.
Awesome. Yeah. So NFTs, it's quite the topic of conversation. NFT, non-fungible token or non-fungible token, whichever way you want to pronounce it. But basically, it's a unique digital good that is transacted on the blockchain. And let's talk about some examples. There's so many cool examples related to music and all disciplines, but let's focus on music here. So I just brought in just a few just to give you a snapshot of what's possible. Let's talk about Snoop Dogg. He's been in the news a lot recently. He was on the Super Bowl. He's on a lot of commercials. He's a very savvy business person. And, he made a lot of money by being in a group of investors for Reddit. If you can imagine, he made a lot of money in the cannabis industry.
I don't believe it.
When it first became legalized in California. And he then got into the NFT world and he sold 10,000 doggy NFTs and as avatars. And so that was his first foray into NFTs. And now he has actually put together the purchase of Death Row Records, which was big news a month or two ago. And he plans to actually make that an NFT label, which is really exciting. He hasn't revealed a lot of details on how he's going to do that. But imagine taking that IP, those classic records, those classic artists, and then making digital goods out of those to complement the actual music. There's a ton of money potentially to be made in that space. So that's one example. Another example, a friend of mine, I was at hanging out with him last night. We were having a drink and I was mentioning that we were going to record this. He said, check out Ozzy Osbourne. And because he has NFTs called crypto bats. Crypto bats are a pretty interesting example. He had a group of developers come up with NFTs, so digital goods that were bat avatars that actually could bite another NFT and create a hybrid NFT. And combine the powers and the value of both, but you can only bite one other NFT, and it's from a batch of NFTs they've partnered with, so it's not any NFT on the planet. But imagine, that's just such a cool, creative way to get people excited about it, and potentially combine the value of two NFTs into one hybrid super NFT, let's say, theoretically. So that's fun. And then have to bring up an artist named Spotty Wi-Fi. I started working with Spotty Wi-Fi. My colleagues Jerry and Alex, we do a music industry immersion class over our January break. It's 12 hours a day, and we collabed with Spotty Wi-Fi. His real name is Mig Mora, but he was an aspiring Chicago rapper, and he just really honestly wasn't going anywhere. He bought this avatar from the cyberpunks that are a valuable NFT avatar group, and he bought a cyberpunk that was freckled, and then he gave it a whole persona as this plumber becomes rapper, and because it had freckled, he named it Spotty. Because it was freckled, he named it Spotty Wi-Fi.
It's a good name.
Yeah, good name. And so he released an EP. He connected with a pretty legendary rapper named Bun B, and Bun B put a verse down on one of his tracks. They released this EP, and they did 2,000 copies of this EP, and each came with a mystery NFT. So each one was unique, of varying degrees of value and complexity. So you didn't really know what you were going to get. So a game of chance, which is a motivating factor when it comes to such things. Also coming with that, actual physical vinyl. So a vinyl record came with that. And then here's one of the most exciting parts. When you bought one of these NFTs, you actually got sync licensing rights. So as the buyer, as the fan, you actually could go out and take that EP and license that music to a film, to a television show, to a commercial, and you would get paid for that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we're seeing the new economy evolve with blockchain and this decentralization and the implementation of smart contracts. And so these smart contracts can make it where as soon as you purchase that NFT, you then own licensing rights. But what's really cool is not only can you get paid from, let's say, syncing this music to a television show, but in this, you can bake into the smart contract the fact that Spotty Wi-Fi will always, anytime this NFT is sold, licensed, or resold, maybe Spotty Wi-Fi gets 25% of that revenue. So a smart contract is an agreement that is self-executing as soon as there's a transaction on the blockchain, but you can set all of those different rights, including when there's resale of something, you can send all that money, pass through that money back to the original creator, which again is very exciting for artists. So that's a little bit about smart contracts and some NFT examples in music.
And it's amazing. I mean, really, the smart contracts are the things that take these NFTs and they make them into anything that you want them to be. And it's great for the artists. It's great for the fans. Everyone has the potential to benefit from, supporting and making good creative content. And because it's all decentralized, there's no label taking their big cut, right? There's no label kind of overseeing and gatekeeping what music gets out there, what music is popular, whatever. And on top of that, because you're going to get paid in cryptocurrency on the blockchain, that transaction, when if I sell the rights to a commercial, that purchase transaction hits immediately, right? So the money, the crypto comes to my account, my wallet, almost immediately. It goes to Big Mora's account almost immediately, right? So we can put all those things together, and it's going to totally revolutionize the way that we create artistic content. We're seeing it happen already. There's one of many examples is this company called Vest. It's a site where, VEZT, you can go online if you're a musician or if you're a band, you can go out and put your music up, and then fans who can just go to the website, listen around, find a new artist that they kind of dig, they can give you money, right? So it's kind of like a crowdfunding thing. They can give you money to help you create an EP or maybe go on a tour or whatever you are raising money for. Once a fan contributes money, they are an investor in what you're creating. And so then from that point, any sales you make on your songs or your EP, your albums, whatever, they get a cut of that. That is, dependent on how much money they put into it. And again, it's smart contracts, so it happens instantly. There's no label kind of being the middleman. There's no one trying to, like, in an accounting department waiting to cut a check. They're going to mail to you. It all happens instantly. It happens every time because it's locked into the code inside the blockchain. And it's just, again, content creation, distribution, promotion. It's changing the way we do everything. And the future is really exciting, I think.
That's cool. And you're talking about the automatic transfer of money and not having to worry about those third parties, those record labels or publishers, etc. You can go even further with this, and you can create what they call a decentralized autonomous organization all on the blockchain. So you could create an organization of artists, let's say all of musicians, and there's no centralized entity. There's no Apple, Google, Warner, anyone intermediating that. It's all democratized to all those people, and you can even set it up where there are voting rights for everyone. So those are, again, decentralized autonomous organizations, often referred to as DAOs. That's another exciting thing that we don't have the time to get too much into, but it's really cool.
Yeah. And speaking of things we don't have time to really get into, we do want to acknowledge that there are some issues with the blockchain system. There are environmental issues for sure. There are some hacking issues that you might have seen in the news. There's the idea that, this is all a bubble, it's going to pop. So those first two things, they're super important. And we, again, could talk about them for a really long time. Know that they are being addressed, and we hope that they continue to be addressed in a really meaningful way so that we can fix those things, particularly the environmental issue, because it's pretty catastrophic if it keeps going down the path it's been going on. But they are fixing it. They're doing better, and they're finding new ways to do this. But I think the bubble one is interesting to spend just a minute on, right? Are we in an NFT bubble? And Justin, I just feel like you're the perfect person to ask this because you have some experience with internet-related bubbles.
Well, I am. I've been around a little bit longer than you, Clayton, and I did experience the first internet bubble. I did run one of the first distributors of music on the internet. And it was worth millions of dollars. I was one of the biggest partners. I owned about 20% of it. It earned a Webby Award, all this, and again, it was worth millions of dollars on paper. Then it was worth nothing and evaporated. We did sell it to Chris Blackwell and Palm Pictures, and which is a whole other story. But that we did get caught in the .com bubble, and it did burst then. There are a lot of naysayers now about NFTs, but this looks a lot like really about the original genesis of the internet and that .com bubble when it burst. Yeah, there might be a serious correction, or this current iteration of NFTs may be something that just never really takes full form. But what we're really seeing, in my opinion, perhaps your opinion, and many others, is this is the new generation, and this is the new internet on top of the internet that is going to be a huge driver in communication, commerce, and revenue.
Yeah, there are a lot of markers that say this bubble is similar to the .com bubble, and the internet famously did not die that day. So I think it's safe to say blockchain will probably, at least I agree with you, follow a similar path. And the future is really bright for blockchain technology. So on top of everything we've talked about, it's going to run the metaverse, it's going to run VR platforms, it's going to just completely change the game on content creation. And by 2026, the business value of blockchain is estimated to be over $360 billion. And then by 2030, which is not that far away from now, it's going to grow to, by estimates, over $3.1 trillion of value added just on blockchain technology, which is extraordinary.
Wow. Well, great. Well, this is what we have time for today, but look forward to doing a Q&A with you later on in that live session. And thank you so much.
Thank you.